dream against tremendous odds for over 16 years. What kind of dream is powerful enough to hold someone in its grasp for all those years? Mel Fisher has been called a hero and a huckster, a visionary and a schemer, an inspiration and a con man.
Oh, Michael.
First impressions are very important. When you first meet a person, I shook hands with him with something about him, his eyes or whatever it was. That, being a gambler, I'd say he's definitely going to be a winner.
It's wonderful every once in a while that in this area where hucksterism is, shall we say, fairly rampant, that a man like that can come out and prove that there's still a reason to have faith in human nature.
That guy is a real McCoy.
Everybody thought he was a real dreamer and a real wacko, and a lot of people were really down on him for a lot of different things.
He's a Horatio Alger hero.
Here's a man in his lifetime completed his dream.
Key West, Florida is Fisher's base of operations, the kind of town that understands a man like Mel Fisher. His friend Tony Torresino is a local saloon keeper, sometime political candidate, and raconteur extraordinaire.
We're living on a little island that's like 3 miles by 2.5. God took this piece of dirt and drew it down and said, hey, that's Key West. Somehow or other, Key West has something. It's a place where if you're looking for the impossible, it could happen. But if you're looking for just the ordinary thing that people live and die by, forget it. Don't even bother taking a plane down.
Geographically and spiritually, Key West is the end of the line for wanderers and dreamers. It is the last refuge for those who have fled not only from the mainland, but also from the mainstream. For a town that specializes in the impossible, a lost galleon and the search for sunken treasure are made to order. It is early September 1622. In the harbor of Havana, Cuba, a Spanish fleet is being loaded for the trip home. Among the cargo is a staggering 40 tons of gold and silver from New World mines to be carried by the rearguard ship, the Nuestra Senora de Atocha. The amount of emeralds and other valuables that will be smuggled on board is impossible to estimate. On the bustling dock, passengers wait impatiently to embark. There are noblemen and servants, merchants and their families, soldiers and slaves, priests and officials. 265 people are to sail on the Atocha. On the morning of September 4th, the fleet sets out for Spain. The skies are clear as the ships head due north. But less than 48 hours into the voyage, a powerful hurricane batters the fleet. The mighty galleons are helpless, pushed by the winds toward the dreaded Florida reefs. By dawn, the Atocha and her sister ship, the Santa Margarita, are badly crippled. Within hours, the sea had claimed hundreds of terrified souls and a glittering cache of the richest empire in the world for her own. As the centuries passed, the once famous story of the Atocha became obscured by time. Modern-day treasure hunters searched futilely for the galleon, struggling to piece together the ancient mystery. But in Seville, Spain, in 1970, the course of the Atocha legend was about to be changed forever. Dr. Eugene Lyon is an expert in Spanish colonial history. While researching in the archives of Seville, he chanced upon a remarkable document.
I was looking through an index for some material relating to Spanish Florida and ran across an audit of the accounts of the salvage of a ship on the coast of Florida. I felt immediately it was from the 1622 ships. The first page that I saw was almost completely riddled with wormholes. It's almost as much air to the page as there is paper remaining. And on this last page, it used the words that I saw for the first time, Cayos del Marqués.
Today, Cayos del Marqués is known as the Marquesas Keys, a tiny cluster of islands 22 miles from Key West. It was in this area that Lyon believed the Atocha sank. He immediately contacted his associate, treasure hunter Mel Fisher, who had also become fascinated by the Atocha legend. A former chicken farmer and dive shop owner, Fisher had spent 2 years searching for the galleon in an area 100 miles east of the Marquesas. He seizes Lyon's new information, takes his wife and 4 children, and heads west to find treasure. Estimates of the Atocha's value range from $100 million to as high as $400 million.
Well, I'd figured it'd take about 6 months to go out searching, find it, and bring it in. And here's been 16 or 17 years. No, I never dreamed it would take that long.
There's something very striking about Mel. Unless you're a man of the sea, unless you spent a lot of time at sea, you can't appreciate a relationship with a person that depends on the sea for a living, knowing she can always beat you.
From the start, the sea was determined to defeat Fisher. The same kind of angry storms that sank the Atocha still prowl the area, attacking suddenly and violently. Searching could be halted by bad weather for weeks at a time. When Fisher could search, he faced an ocean floor blanketed with useless wreckage that sent him on 1,000 false leads. And there were other problems. Treasure hunting is an expensive business. In 1970, the operation was already costing him close to $500 a day.
Treasure hunting, like everything else, has been an escalating cost business. Whereas in the 60s, they could operate relatively inexpensively, one boat, 3 or 4 guys. When we moved down here and had to start providing vessels that could stay at sea, all of a sudden the cost started spiraling.
Bleth McHaley has been with Fisher through 14 years of tenuous finances. She is now a vice president of his company, Treasure Salvers.
I can remember 16 weeks, 20 weeks, even longer, without pay, and we'd all eat together, live collectively. That kind of holds you together.
Another close associate who shared both the spirit of determination and the frustrations of the search is Don Kincaid, vice president and photographer for the organization.
It is a huge, huge, huge area of ocean. It is far greater an area than anybody has ever searched before, looking for a single item. It is vast. They searched 120,000 linear miles before they found the first item from the wreck site.
It was June 1971 when that first item finally appeared in an area of shallow water known as the quicksands. Fisher's divers uncover a huge anchor, the right size and shape for the 1622 ships. On a hunch, Fisher feels it is from the Atocha, but many of his colleagues believe it to be from her sister ship, the Santa Margarita. There is no way to be sure, and without proof, Fisher's many critics and rivals scoff at his claim. No other significant finds are uncovered for the next 2 years.
No.
The tedium is outweighed only by the drudgery. For the divers, the work is backbreaking.
Day after day, nothing, month after month, and, just sticking with that and just...
3, 5 people on the boat.
Yep. and you're very tired at night to the point where sometimes you don't even want to eat dinner because you just want to lie down and go to sleep. That was what no one sees.
To help with the digging, Fisher had developed an ingenious piece of equipment known as a mailbox, which forces water downward from the ship's propellers, blowing a hole in the ocean floor. But the divers must still search through up to 20 feet of shifting sands to thoroughly cover an area. The ocean floor begins to resemble a battlefield strewn with hundreds of empty craters. It seems the treasure hunters face an impossible task. But in the spring of 1973, blackened chunks of metal begin to appear in the sands. They are coins, Spanish silver coins, and none bear mint marks later than 1621. On May 20th, the divers find 1,500 of them. This part of the quicksands is promptly dubbed the Bank of Spain. It was a memorable day. For Fisher's wife, Dio, it was to become one of many.
We were always on a trail, and trails just kept providing us with a little bit here and a little bit there, and just saying, come on, you know, keep going. It's something that it was just kind of like a tease. I'm out here, you can find me.
In June, 1 month after the coins had been found, Fisher's son Dirk uncovers what remains one of the hunt's most remarkable finds.
Look at this thing. Dirk, I think that's the best thing we've found, you know?
It is an astrolabe, an ancient and rare piece of navigational equipment. It could easily have belonged to the pilot aboard the Atocha, but there is still no proof.
It works. Look at that. That looks like it just come out of a machine shop, doesn't it?
Father's Day, 1973. Kim Fisher strikes gold. Father and son share the moment of discovery.
What, 10 pounds? God, it felt like it.
Then a breakthrough.
In 1973, we find 3 silver bars in the middle of the quicksand.
The bars weigh close to 70 pounds each, making it nearly impossible to carry them to the surface. But these dull gray objects covered with centuries of encrustation are the focus of great interest. Eugene Lyon's expertise is called upon once again.
And there in this tub were these 3 blackened items. The first ingots I'd seen for years and years, but they look beautiful.
Lyon is able to match the serial number on one of the bars with the manifest or cargo list of the Atocha. At last, here is proof that the treasure hunters have found material from the lost galleon. But cautiously, they decide to do one more test on board the search boat. If it confirms the identity of the silver ingot, perhaps Fisher will find the support he is looking for. The weight for the bar listed on the manifest is 63 6/10 pounds. The one on board should be the same. The future of the enterprise may well hang in the balance as the bar is lowered onto a preset scale. The weights match. 5 years after the search for the Atocha began, it appears to be nearing its goal.
I cannot tell you what a mistake that was, and what a lure it was. And there was treasure up in the quicksands. If we hadn't found those 3 silver bars in 1973, this false trail, we probably would have found the Atocha many years before we did.
But at the time, the bars seemed a major triumph. They also seemed to mark Mel Fisher as a fraud in the eyes of some competitors. Interviewed in 1976, McHaley and Fisher recall the beginning of battles with the authorities that will haunt them for years.
SEC investigation begins. All because we had found what we said we were going to find. And I think they expected to come down and find that we had taken little old lady's sugar bowl money, and typical of a con, we'd have a little rowboat out there and go around the island once or twice looking for treasure and abscond with people's money.
The newspapers, you know, they like a controversy. It sells papers, and so they would print both sides of the story, and I can't blame them, you know. And they would quote my competitors saying that I was salting the wreck, or I'd hauled the stuff from somewhere else out to the Atocha or whatever.
And trying to fight that and stay alive at the same time was almost impossible.
Fisher is embroiled in bitter controversy by the time Florida state officials make a dramatic visit to take charge of the treasure.
200 silver coins, number 1955.
After a year and a half of tense negotiations, the Florida authorities retained 25% of the treasure.
Say the numbers loud enough, please, that these people down here can hear, all the people that are keeping up with it. 1951 silver bar.
But the controversy is far from over. Fisher seems surrounded by conflict on every side. Soon, other officials will intervene. The federal government will claim ownership of the Atocha. Attorney David Paul Horan has represented Fisher in these cases since the mid-70s.
In 1975, the federal government, the state of Florida, decided that the federal government would come into the litigation, that the federal government would then win it, and they went so far as to determine how they were going to split the proceeds once they had won.
It is a grim period, but Fisher is determined not to let the search for the Atocha languish. He turns to marine archaeologist Duncan Mathewson.
Together with the evidence that we're getting from the documents.
Mathewson is a scientist, the very antithesis of a man like Fisher who follows his hunches. Mathewson begins to develop a theory based on hard evidence and reasoning.
During the summers of 73, 74, 75, we were able to piece together the bits and pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that led us to believe that the major part of the ship was not in the shallow quicksands, but instead out in the deeper water in the middle of Hawk Channel.
Mathewson's deep water theory proposed that the Atocha sank at a depth of over 50 feet. A second storm 1 month later had broken up the ship and carried portions of it to the shallow quicksands, scattering its contents along the way. But theories were easy to come by. Ed Little is Fisher's cartographer.
And of course the bottom line is where was the Atocha? How many theories of where it is? We had something like, maybe 50 divers, 40 divers, and at any one time there were at least 100 theories as to where the Atocha would lie.
Some people thought it went up into the quicksands further. Some thought it was still way out in the deep water to the south. Others thought it was to the west. There's conflicting evidence in the research. One guy in the research says that the Atocha sank to the east of Margarita. Another guy said that it sank to the west of Margarita. So we all had different theories. I had about a half a dozen of them and could argue with myself.
When the wind blows and you can't be out on the sea, everybody sits around the office and discusses theories.
These opinions relied basically on assumptions, on guesses rather than on facts. And one of the most difficult periods of my being with treasure solvers was trying to get them to separate fact from fiction.
Fisher's son, Dirk, becomes a believer in Mathewson's deep water theory. His instincts pay off on July 13, 1975, when his search in nearly 40 feet of water discloses an almost miraculous sight. Ancient bronze cannons lie on top of the seabed, scattered over an area the divers must have passed close by countless times.
I've chased down about 1,000 bronze cannon stories, and they all piddled out. I'm beginning to think they never made any.
Since the controversy over the silver bars, the team has yearned for evidence like this. The 1.5-ton cannons are impossible to fake.
Here it is
on the inventory list that Gene Ryan got in Sevilla of bronze cannon aboard the Atocha. So that is positive identification that this cannon is off the Atocha.
It is a sweet moment for family and crew, a victory provided for Fisher by his eldest son, Dirk. But within a week, the sea will strike back in the cruelest way imaginable. Dirk Fisher and his wife Angel lead a crew back to the cannon site only a few days later. That evening, their ship, the North Wind, is anchored on a calm, untroubled sea. But sometime during the night, an undetected leak develops. The boat lists further and further to one side, and then within minutes, it capsizes. Most of the people on board escape, but 3 are trapped inside. Dirk Fisher, his wife Angel, and crew member Rick Gage are dead. The sea, in a savagely unfair exchange, has traded 9 bronze cannons for 3 young lives.
We all had a sort of a rededication of going out to find that main part of the wreck. We all felt that it was there now that Dirk had found the cannons. It was very important for us all. Myself, Gene, the crew, everybody. I know Mel and Dio wanted to carry through. Dirk and Angel were both very close to all our hearts then, and we felt that we should really continue to work in that deep area as consistently as we possibly could.
For Mel Fisher, it has been a time of anguish and grave doubts. For the next 3 long, frustrating years, Fisher finds little to cling to.
Good hunting.
Virtually no new clues are discovered. The hunt has now stretched on for over a decade. When the bronze cannons were found, it seemed the main body of the wreck must be only a hair's breadth away.
How we doing? Getting down.
But the bulk of the Atocha's treasure, what the crew has termed the mother lode, still eludes them. They have only tantalizing bits and pieces of an ancient puzzle.
This is a pistol shot. This is a musket shot, or an arquebus shot, and this is a musket shot here, 4,000.
Fisher must continue to rely on his instincts, no matter how slim the evidence.
You watch.
I couldn't believe that Mel Fisher thought that the Atocha could have gone this far, Nancy. And I said, there's nothing here to even indicate a trail. And then Mel comes up to me and says, well, see this musket ball? We found a musket ball here. He says, that's from the Atocha. And I said, Mel, there are Spaniards been in that area for 20 years salvaging the Margarita. They're away from their homes. Saturday night, there's nothing to do. They shoot the muskets at the pelicans. And Mel says, no, that's from the Atocha. He feels it. The Atocha is there somewhere.
But where? For the time being, Fisher's hunches seem to be leading him nowhere.
At that time, I felt it must be right in that immediate vicinity in the deeper water. And we looked and looked and looked and could not believe it wasn't there.
There's so many things that have tried to defeat us that you have to be strong together and just take each problem as it comes and overcome it. I think if we had, given up on the project someplace along the way, that we would have been defeated the rest of our lives.
By 1979, the search has hit areas of deep mud. Digging is virtually halted by the densely packed seafloor. The hunt seems blocked at every turn. It has gone on for 12 years and cost nearly $6 million. Fisher needs treasure. He decides to go back to a site he had marked some years before. Although he doesn't believe it is the Atocha, he feels it may be her sister ship, the Santa Margarita. The team begins to explore an area that had yielded strong readings on a device called a magnetometer.
Okay.
A sort of technological divining rod, it signals the presence of iron objects underwater. Chip Clemens is captain of one of Fisher's boats, the Bookmaker.
The aggravating thing is, with our work, especially with the magnetometer, which is our primary piece of equipment, we never know what we're reading. We hardly ever do because there's so many bombs out here. The Navy uses this as a dumping ground for bombs. And of course, the mag reads those. And so we're getting all kind of signatures, the metal all over the ocean floor. Most of them turn out to be bombs.
In the winter of 1980, among the thousands of bomb fragments littering the ocean floor, the divers discover extremely old anchors and ballast stones. The stones were loaded in the hulls of 17th century ships for stability. Large amounts of ballast may well mark the location of an ancient shipwreck. By that spring, it is clear that fortunes are changing.
I saw swimming down the anchor line, got about halfway to the anchor, and I saw this group of fish off to the right. Took a closer look, and as I got closer, I could tell I saw the outline of a cannon. Yes, man, my whole heart fell out of my chest. It was just great.
Fisher has indeed found the wreck of the Margarita. Though it is not the vessel he seeks, it is an impressive discovery. The crew has uncovered the timbers that were once the massive and powerful stern of a proud Spanish galleon. But the sea and the centuries have made them as fragile as the bones of an old man. No one is untouched by the magnitude of what they have found.
It's a wonderful, wonderful thrill because you're going from the deck of the boat, which is the 20th century, and you're in 20th century armor, all the diving gear, and you go down to the bottom, and then you're in the 17th century, and I'm walking on a deck that's 350 years old. You can see the marks on the wood where the guys hacked the wood into the shape that it is to become a rib in the ship. You can see where the nails were driven in. You can see in some of the areas where there's something akin to putty or material like that. You can see some guy's fingerprint in there. That fingerprint is 350 years old. So you're shaking hands with history.
Long gold chains like these were commonly worn by wealthy passengers traveling from the New World. They often hid them by wrapping them closely around their bodies. But for the voyagers on the ill-fated Margarita, their gold became an instrument of destruction, hastening their descent to the bottom of the sea.
Just think, Larry, when this ship was breaking up, somebody was fondling that cross and saying their prayers.
That cross and a bag of silver.
The artifacts of the Margarita begin to form a rare portrait of the past.
Get a load of this.
Almost every day brings new discoveries, poignant relics of 17th century life.
See the plate, Michael.
A couple little clear stones. I don't know what they are.
Probably part of a rosary.
No, I think it's a necklace, some type of necklace.
I think it's a necklace.
The divers are elated by the finds, including Fisher's youngest son, Kane. By 1982, the Margarita has presented Fisher with over $20 million worth of treasure. But battles over ownership of recovered treasure are still being fought. Fisher has no idea if any of the riches he has given so much for will ever belong to him. On July 2nd, 1982, after 7 years and millions of dollars in legal costs, the U.S. Supreme Court hands down a precedent-setting 5-4 ruling on the issue.
The decision in 1982 primarily meant that we were not only the finder, but because it had been abandoned for so long, we were also the owner of that vessel. And we had the right to continued protection of the Federal District Court for our salvage activities until such time as salvage was no longer possible on the wreck.
It is a major turning point in Mel Fisher's quest. Armed with more money for badly needed equipment and with the court cases behind him, he returns to the search for the Atocha. For as dazzling as the Margarita's treasure is, he has not forgotten what he is really after. Neither has anyone else.
There was a growing impatience within the company. Everybody kept remembering and thinking about the mother lode. Everybody wanted to get back. Mel, in particular, of course, was always very, very impatient, and so always kept the boats on the Atocha side as much as he could.
The faintest of clues along the ocean bottom begin to hint at a path.
The whole theory of a shipwreck leaving a trail across the ocean floor, like an animal or something would leave a trail in the woods, you know, broken twig, you know, on a moved rock or something like that. That was the basic idea that we followed. And then after 82, we started following the trail.
The trail came to be known as Kane's Trail.
Hey there, Cap.
Fisher's youngest son is emerging as a full-fledged treasure hunter.
You have to remember that Mel couldn't be out there 7 days a week. It took a big team to get out there, dive under, not knowing if there's sharks or what's there, old Navy bombs that could have blew up. After all, to be out there 2 or 3 weeks in this heat, beat and toss, and the food tastes the same day after day, somehow or other, Kane tightens the whole thing up. And this was a very, very big part of the success of the operation.
I'm just dedicated to my father's work, and I love it, and I love what I'm doing. I love the ocean. I was born by the sea, probably died by the sea. I'm just glad to make his quest come true.
It's tough to be the son of a king, but he has developed into a treasure hunter who is as dogged and is as persistent as his father.
Kane Fisher comes by his occupation naturally, perhaps inevitably. But for the other divers, there are other reasons.
I'd known about Mel Fisher for a long time, and I gave him a call on the phone. I told him who I was, and he says, well, I could use another diver. I says, well, how much do you pay? And he said, $50 a week. And I says, you got to be kidding me. He says, no, that's all I can afford. And I says, okay, I'll be down in 3 days. So I came down, and I thought I'd give it a try and see what happened, and voila, I'm still here 7.5 years later.
It's a chance to work with a legend, you know, someone that most of us probably have known about for at least 10, 12, 15 years. So there's probably a lot of people that would work for nothing. Just getting the opportunity to be trained by some of these people in itself is real special. There's no group like it anywhere on the planet that I know of.
But in 1982, the divers were following a trail that often seemed to be an illusion. Still, Kane Fisher spends 3 more years moving his boat down a line into deeper and deeper water, past the bronze cannons found by his brother Dirk.
The line kept getting longer and longer and longer, and ballast stone here, and then a couple hundred empty holes, and then one more ballast stone, another 100 empty holes, and one nail, and finally it just petered out, and there's nothing there.
The sea is still not ready to give up the Atocha. In the spring of 1985, Mel Fisher once again decides to play a hunch.
About 2 months ago, I decided to have all the boats that work with me and all the men and women stop everything they're doing and all concentrate on the end of Kane's Trail there.
And that's what we were doing, was running back and forth across this trail with all our gear, trying to pick up signs of it. And the farther east we came, I thought, no, I can't be out here. It's just too far.
But on May 27th, Memorial Day, the rusty iron nails and barrel hoops the crew have been finding give way to something much more spectacular. "13 solid gold bars and 16 emeralds in magnificent gold settings.
It's the only time in my life I ever hung up on Mel Fisher. And he said we found gold bars, and I said, great, hung up the phone and dashed down to the office and sat with him and listened to the radio. Couldn't believe it. But then 5 weeks went by, and the boats were just doggedly out there, ran out of the trail. came back up the trail, all during the month of June. Nothing.
The summer of '85 is wearing on. Friday, July 19th begins like so many other days. A handful of boats searching a vast ocean for a single ship that sank 363 years before.
But late Friday afternoon, there was no one here but Ed Little and I. Ed came to me and said, "Would you like to see the Atocha?" I thought, yeah. You know, he brought me a side scan sonar reading, and there it is, just laying there exactly as a shipwreck should look on a side scan sonar. And I said, "Ed, you know, where is that?"
Kane Fisher's boat may actually be anchored directly over the Atocha's motherlode, but the treasure hunters must wait one more agonizing night before they will know for sure. Saturday morning, July 20th. At the office, a crowd is gathered.
The whole staff was here, just kind of pacing around. Ed Little kept saying, "It's the motherlode, it's the motherlode. I know it, I know it." You know, it was that sort of morning.
Then, in mid-afternoon, divers Greg Wareham and Andy Matrosi go below.
I swam out to have a look around with the metal detector, swam maybe 60, 70 feet, and saw like a small reef arise on the bottom. Took the metal detector and waved it over the top and got a big scream all the way across the top of it. Took a closer look and looked like silver bars and ballast stones all over. So I went back and got Andy as fast as I could.
Ed Little came flying out of the chart room, grabbed the radio.
Got a pile of silver bars. It's like a reef. There's bars scattered all in the reef.
Greg came flying out of the water, about 10 feet out of the water, with Andy right behind him screaming,
I'm choking.
"This is it. There's silver bars everywhere."
Hooray!
Where's Mel? Where is he?
We couldn't find Mel. We checked all his local haunts. I mean, every place that Mel Fisher's ever been known to be. We couldn't find him. Absolutely couldn't find him. We put it out over the local radio station. "Mel Fisher, go to your office. You've just found the mother lode." And when he came walking back up the sidewalk, he had a bag in his hand, and I said, "Where have you been?"
I just went and bought a mask and fins. I'm ready to go.
The world's greatest treasure hunter was out buying diving gear when he found the mother lode.
Now you're all making me cry.
Mel, you want to talk to Kane on the radio?
And every report that came in over the radio, it got death quiet in there, and everybody just stopped to listen to every word they said.
Lobsters around this a whole bit.
And when the radio transmission would end, everybody would start cheering again and pouring more champagne.
And that night, neither we nor the people out on the boats celebrated. I mean, there was that intense moment of celebration. But we all sort of went our separate ways. It was as though you needed to contemplate it, you needed to reflect on it. The immensity of what had happened was just beginning to sink in. I think we were all intellectually prepared for the Atocha, but certainly not emotionally prepared for it.
10 years to the day after his son's death, and over 16 years after his search began, Mel Fisher is victorious. For him and the people who believed in him, the discovery of the Atocha ends almost 2 decades of hardship and personal tragedy. The immensity of the Atocha's treasure is staggering. What was only a name, a dream, a legend, has in an instant become an undeniable reality. It is as if a piece of the past had been torn off and sent drifting into the present.
Every time a ship sinks, time stands still. All those artifacts are frozen together. And it means that by studying all those artifacts together, we can learn how people lived centuries ago.
Some of the Atocha's cargo was the fruit of harsh labor by the Peruvian Indians. Other items were personal possessions treasured by homesick voyagers who never saw home again. There were the jewels of the pious and the wealthy. Whatever their beginnings, all these objects shared a tragic destiny. Duncan Mathewson's theory about what had happened to the Atocha was essentially correct. The Atocha had sunk here in deep water, and parts of it were scattered by a second storm some 10.5 miles northwest to the shallow quicksands.
So we're doing archaeology and we're doing salvage. One helps us to do the other. We can't do one without the other. They go hand in hand in this operation. And as we become more effective archaeologists, we become more effective salvors.
Mathewson must now begin to guide the team on a long-awaited mission. The exact locations of hundreds of items must be mapped and recorded. The ocean floor begins to resemble a lunar construction site. Every inch of the wreck must be photographed. The hull timbers are exposed and carefully sketched. Perhaps the drawings will reveal more about how the Atocha was built and how she sank. The loose sand and silt are gently vacuumed up by a device called an airlift, revealing fragments of a 363-year-old tragedy.
You sense the loss of life there. The wood that's present is something that the people walked on, lived in. That was their home for the long journey, or the planned long journey that never came to a successful end.
Baskets begin to fill with blackened silver bars and blocks of coins which have fused together over the years. After 3.5 centuries, the Atocha's treasure can be brought to the surface. It is a job that will take years to complete.
We just brought up a couple of treasure chests. This one here is broken up here, as you can see. It's a piece of 8, 1622. That's some nice ones.
Some of the blocks retain the shape of the chests that held them. Others still have remnants of the wood surrounding them.
There it is, what little kids think of, and adults, I guess, a real treasure chest.
Soon the divers have brought up hundreds of silver bars and many thousands of coins.
Oh my God.
As they are unloaded, details of the Atocha's cargo begin to emerge.
A lot of the artifacts that have come up have really inspired a lot of imagination, even in those that at first would have decided to just dig it up. It's really incredible, some of the artifacts. They're more beautiful than the bars themselves, the silver bars.
After 3 days, the Dauntless has become so heavy with silver that she must return to dock. Security is very much in evidence as millions of dollars worth of treasure arrive at Fisher's exhibit.
Somebody bring me that other phone.
In less than a week following the discovery of the mother lode, over 15,000 visitors have come to see the display. The main attraction is the huge pile of silver bars.
Look, this still got some on it. See here?
After all these years, Fisher is still as fascinated by the sight of treasure as his young grandson.
I sometimes feel like I don't even own these gold bars and gold chains and things that I get. I just get to show them to people for a little while, and then when I'm dead and gone, those things will just keep on going, and people will keep marveling at them and being thrilled by it forever, you know.
Behind the scenes of the exhibit, the conservation work goes on. Ancient pottery shards are analyzed to determine their composition and origin. The thousands of coins carried by the Atocha undergo a transformation. They soak in a special solution while a current is passed through them. The black silver sulfide coating is loosened in the process. As the coins are tumbled in a container filled with stainless steel shot, the residue is gently rubbed away. A final rinse and polish, and they gleam once more.
There's a nice cue, real nice cue on this one. No date? No date.
Sorting the hand-struck coins according to the mint and assayer marks completes the immediate procedure.
No assayer on this, but I got a full, complete date. Look at that, 1619, just as clear.
That's a beauty. That's a beauty.
That's a real nice date.
Let's tuck that one in the bag. Okay, Sean, what I...
Directing the cleaning and preservation process for each artifact is the museum's head conservator, Jim Sinclair.
We don't want to leave it out too long because the iron has a tendency to deteriorate quite rapidly once it hits the air.
Many of these pieces cannot be saved. Over 300 years of submersion in salt water has eaten the metal of this sword away. All that's left is a shell. In August, the recovery work on the site is continuing in full swing. The excavation of tons of silver has become almost routine. But today, August 16th, the routine is dramatically broken. Two divers are searching an area about 50 yards from the mother lode when something glimmers in the sand. It is gold, untarnished, untouched by the years. There seems to be no end to the wealth that is scattered in the sands. This is the stuff of a treasure hunter's fantasy.
I never dreamt about treasure before I came here. I didn't know a full-time job existed anywhere in the world. You wake up every day and you go look for a Spanish galleon. My first week out at sea, I realized what I was doing. Then I started dreaming about it. And then after you find gold, you dream about gold every night.
I like the ring to that, man.
Yeah.
The world's most expensive xylophone.
Playing our song.
By the end of that day, 76 gold bars and discs had been found weighing over 200 pounds. Some are covered in lengths and lengths of gold chain. There is an almost mystical quality about gold. Like a warm fire, it draws the men closer and closer.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
On August 21st, Mel Fisher turns 63 years old. A once-in-a-lifetime event in more than one way.
Boy, that's quite a birthday present, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, don't expect this every year.
2 weeks before he found the Atocha, Fisher could barely make payroll. Today, he stands surrounded by millions of dollars in Spanish gold.
That's my favorite.
Really well marked.
The sea, having decided to give up the Atocha to those who searched so long and paid so dearly for her, is now showering them with wealth beyond their imagination. Colombian emeralds are being found in stunning numbers. 5 months after the discovery of the mother lode, there are over 300 of them worth some $60 million. Most of the treasure will eventually rest in private hands, spread among Fisher's investors, employees, and others who supported the search. But this plan raises questions from Fisher's critics. Peter Neal is the president of New York's South Street Seaport Museum.
And it's my view that these artifacts are part of this nation's heritage and that they should be shared, and they should not be used for the exclusive enjoyment or gain of any individual or group of investors.
But the people who bet their money on Mel Fisher feel differently about the treasure. Some of them will almost certainly become millionaires. But most were caught by something more intangible than the potential return on a very chancy investment.
Well, see, I like history. It's the excitement of knowing that you got something that's real old and it's been hidden, really hidden all those years. I mean, to hold that in your hand and really know that a human being at one other time had held that coin, that's the excitement. The money really doesn't mean that much. The history is what's really exciting.
Figured, geez, be there when history's being made. Get some things that are old that you can hang on to that nobody in the world would have.
Jim Bondahar, known to one and all as Cincinnati Jim, has become a member of Fisher's extended family. Over 10 years ago, he invested almost everything he had in the hunt.
This is a poem I wrote to commemorate our find. The day started out calm, bright, and clear. One of the better days of the entire year. The first hole a barrel hook, then a coin or two, then a copper ingot, and then there were two. More copper ingots. The mother lode was near. Then Kane broke water with a thunderous cheer. Call the office. Let them know the pile of the Atocha lies below. Tell Mel it's over. 12 years of sweat. This is a day history cannot forget. Disappointments, heartaches, sorrows and tears, just part of the price that Mel paid through the years. Now we can raise a memorial to Dirk. Let the inscription read, "We have finished your work." And I kind of wrote that as a memorial more to Dirk than anything. It just kind of gets to me whenever I think of him.
The quest for the Atocha is a story of struggle, controversy, and tremendous risk.
The point is that there is a lot of adventure left on this planet. You don't have to go to the moon or cross the American desert in a Conestoga wagon or, find a new continent in order to have adventure in your life. There are a lot of things out there for people to do if they will simply get out of the rocking chair and go do them.
If this is a great adventure story, a kind of modern-day Indiana Jones, we must remember what happened at the end of Indiana's last adventure. He recovered the booty. He overcame all the frustrations. And then he gave the artifacts back to the people.
Mel Fisher seems an unlikely figure to have led such a quest. Does he share the New World spirit of adventure? Or the hunger for gold of the conquistadors? What is undeniable is his quality of persistence, of drive, and most of all, his ability to believe in a vision as romantic as sunken treasure. It is a quality almost as rare as treasure itself.
I think that perseverance is paid. That's one of the main things. Just hang in there and do your thing, and people try to tear you down or get jealous. Just let it go in one ear and out the other and keep on going.
What is the mind, and where is it located? Can it be the 3 pounds of tissue within our skulls whose ceaseless activity consumes up to 1/4 of our oxygen intake? How can billions of invisible, self-charging batteries be responsible for the glories of mankind's creativity? To mystics, the mind is the universe is the mind. To science, mind and brain are one. Either way, it is a matter of wonder and mystery, and a paradox, too, that the most powerful force on Earth lacks the power to understand itself. Seldom we consider the exquisite complexities of human endeavor. Reflect, if you will, how dozens of players, following signals from a conductor, call on individual memories of years of training to perform intricate muscular actions that bring forth musical sounds. While doing all this and instantaneously registering the result, the brain makes each individual emotionally aware of performing before an audience and sharing the experience with other players. And at the same time, each brain keeps the body erect, monitors the environment, and regulates all systems that keep us alive and conscious. The soloist has memorized his entire part. At dizzying speed, his brain must reach into memory for more than 6,000 notes to recall and perform each in sequence with appropriate tonal and dynamic colorations. Behold a human brain. Its appearance tells us nothing of its functions, nothing about the individual whose personality it once contained. Nowhere in this wrinkled jelly-like mass is there even a clue to race, nationality, or religion. It could be the brain of a genius, or a cretin, a killer, or a saint. Peeling away one micro-thin slice after another from top to bottom reveals intricate and beautiful structures and tells a scientist that no two brains are identical. Within the brain are stored memories of a lifetime. Are they in one place, or do they permeate the entire organ? What happens when we learn new things? Logic tells us that physical changes must take place. But what are they? How do they happen? And where? No one knows. Techniques bring to life the many complex structures within the brain. Photographs of several thousand micro-thin slices can be traced and the outlines transferred to a computer, enabling us to visualize brain structures as they have never been seen before. In the crumpled top layer of the brain, the cortex, lie the qualities that separate man from all other creatures. A mere 1/8 of an inch thick, it would, if stretched out flat, cover an area 2 feet wide and 3 feet long. At the base of the brain, structures that keep us awake and alive, regulating breathing, heartbeat, maintaining equilibrium and muscle tone. Every second, 100 million separate messages reach the brain from our senses. Somehow, we screen out the meaningless and react to the important signals. And while our brain is regulating all our body's functions, we may love, hate, think, create, reminisce, plan ahead. Through the brain, we know what we are. We know we're alive. But how do we know? That's the mystery that plagues us still. Few decades have seen enormous progress in mapping the brain and learning how it functions. With powerful tools like computers and electron microscopes, science has compiled vast amounts of data. But each new gateway opens to a new horizon. The brain remains the ultimate frontier. Lost in the reaches of evolutionary time, there formed on this planet clusters of molecules that would become living cells. And from this life would evolve the most complex clump of matter in the known universe, the human brain. Reflecting this heritage, we have in effect 3 brains in one. At the base lies the most primitive part of our brain, much like the brain of the reptile, a creature of limited behaviors, capable of little beyond the preservation of life. Surrounding the reptilian brain, the old mammalian brain, or limbic system, developed in the earliest mammals 150 million years ago. Today, in humans, it is the center of our emotions and sexual drives. Crowning them both, the neocortex, or new mammalian brain. Here resides speech and abstract thought, hallmarks of Homo sapiens, a creature endlessly vexed by the challenge of trying to understand its own nature.
There is a view called the mind-body dualism, which says that the mind is something separate from the body, not a part of it, not explicable in terms of the atoms and molecules that make us up. In my view, there is not a smidgen of evidence for such a position. A very plausible position, I think, is that what we call mind is the results of the anatomy and physiology of the brain, and nothing more. That our thoughts, feelings, sensations, sense of consciousness, emotions are all due to the chemical and electrical connections inside the brain.
Behold a human brain. What wonders lie within? Just the thin, wrinkled outer layer, the cortex, holds some 50 billion neurons, tiny nerve cells, each connected to as many as 100,000 others. In only 1 cubic inch, 100 million nerve cells connected by 10,000 miles of fibers. If all the nerve cells and fibers in one human brain were stretched end to end, they would reach at least to the moon and back. Each neuron is like a living factory that produces and distributes its own special kind of chemicals. Yet these cells are so small and densely packed together that the area of brain represented in this artist's recreation is smaller than a single grain of sand. At each point of contact between neurons, it's called a synapse. an electrical signal triggers a minute squirt of chemical, a neurotransmitter, from one cell to another. Computing a myriad of such incoming signals, the receiving cell must instantly decide whether or not to fire its own signal to other neurons. About 24 different neurotransmitters are known, and probably many more remain to be discovered. These vital chemical messengers exist in such small amounts that trying to find one in brain tissue is said to be like trying to find a pinch of salt dissolved in a swimming pool. If it could be seen, brain cell action might look like random flickering of countless stars in an endless universe. Seemingly an infinite amount of information and variety of behaviors in an unlikely looking package.
I think it's important to realize how much information is packed in the brain. It's a vast amount of information that everybody carries around in his head. The number of connections between neurons and other neurons is about 10 trillion. That is the equivalent of the amount of information in 10 billion pages of the Encyclopedia Britannica. And that's an awful lot of pages. I don't think that that amount of information for each individual's brain is going to be extracted by examining somebody's brain in the near future. The intricacy of the architecture of the brain, I think, speaks eloquently about the value and uniqueness of each individual human being.
While all our behavior is determined by physical connections within our brain, evidence from various research centers over the past 2 decades indicates that our voluntary acts are based on principles of pain and pleasure. Discoveries by the late James Olds in the 1950s would become a keystone of this concept, now called brain reward.
In these experiments, animal behavior is controlled by direct stimulation of what we call reward centers in the brain.
Dr. Olds found that rats would learn to press levers and perform other tasks for no other reward than electrical stimulation of certain spots in the brain. He had discovered specific pleasure centers, at least in the brain of the rat. The rats quickly learned they had to cross a grid in order to get the thrill of electrical stimulation in the pleasure center.
Now, I will electrify the grid. The animal must cross an area that gives a very painful shock to the feet in order to get to the pedal and stimulate the brain. No hungry rat in our laboratory has ever been willing to take a shock as large as this in order to get to food. They will die of starvation first. This shows a rat is willing to pay a very high price in order to get to the pedal.
Olds' work has inspired a generation of research into the role of the brain's pleasure centers. Today, his work is seen as a major step in the search for chemical or electrical pathways involved in learning and memory. Recently, it was discovered that the brain produces neurotransmitters that affect our perceptions of pain and pleasure. Akin to morphine and other derivatives of opium, they're called endorphins. With increasing sophistication, laboratories around the world seek to learn how the endorphins and other brain chemicals affect how we feel and how we act.
I'd say most of human behavior is controlled by these systems of rewards and punishments. The experiments that we've been interested in doing have been aimed at finding out the chemical nature of the systems that mediate reward effects. The key to the understanding and the regulation of brain function is to understand these chemical informational processes. If we can understand how these systems interact to produce behavior, we can understand what goes wrong when behavior goes wrong. And if we know enough about the chemistry, we can intervene and we can correct a disordered chemistry. The hope would be that some of the mental diseases may represent treatable biochemical disorders of the same sort. And that by understanding the processes that are going wrong, we can remedy the deficiency to cure the disease.
The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. What does that mean to you?
Don't change your life to make it better, because you should stay with your own life where you are now to make yourself better. And life is beautiful.
In a psychiatric hospital, a schizophrenic patient has volunteered for a research program testing new drugs.
I did cry because I cried because I just thought that my dog died Blackie when I was 4 years old, and I cried about that. This week or last week was the week before. And I get nervous around people sometimes, but I like people.
Psychiatric interviews are recorded on videotape for evaluation and analysis by members of the medical team who look for changes in the patient's behavior. The observers do not know which drugs, if any, have been administered. By observing the patient's behavior, they evaluate effectiveness of the drugs being tested.
After the infusion, about 2 hours later, he was higher than baseline. He was more active, his speech was pressured, talked about all the sad things that happened to him.
Do you think you could separate from the tape the physical symptoms he was having?
Definitely, yeah.
Do you like other people?
Yes.
Do you think other people want to hurt you?
No.
Did you ever think people wanted to hurt you?
I used to, but not anymore.
Behold a human brain. It is only about 100 years ago that we became aware of the separate functions of the two hemispheres. Language is primarily the function of the left side, which emphasizes the mathematical, logical, analytic. The right brain is our main source of concepts of form and space, emphasizing the whole picture. A rare opportunity for research is provided by persons whose two hemispheres have been surgically disconnected. The procedure has been used as a treatment for severe epilepsy.
No problem with blinking now because you have a contact lens in your eye. I'm going to put this little tube on.
While her left eye is covered, information from the right eye reaches both hemispheres through pathways not affected by the surgery. The woman has little difficulty naming pictures in the book.
Point with your right hand.
A woman holding a baby.
Yeah.
A kid putting up blocks or something.
Right.
And a woman, looks like she's doing something.
What's she
drinking
doing?
coffee.
Yeah.
And this is some kid wrestling.
Now, I'm going to move this away for a second. You're going to cover your whole...
Oh, and now...
Is that straight?
Now a special lens attachment will cut off all visual information to her left brain, the side normally in charge of verbal, linguistic responses.
What I want you to do now is point to 4 pictures with your left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now tell me what you see in this picture right here. You get a picture only to the left visual half field, so it goes only to the right hemisphere. What do you see now? Can you point to the corn?
The what?
Point to the corn.
Down here.
Very good.
Okay.
Can you point to something that has... Can you point to the pot? Is that a pot?
No.
Now, where is the pot?
Up here.
Very good. What do you see in this picture here?
That's one I can't figure out. What is it?
Is it good or bad?
Good.
It's good. Do you play with it or do you eat it?
You eat it.
You eat it. Do you eat it for dessert or
Yeah.
for first course?
Dessert.
Dessert. What is it?
Pie.
Pie. Oh, you're doing fine. I want to see your vocabulary in the right side of the brain. So I'm going to say a word and I want you to point to the correct picture, okay?
Okay.
Can you point to the car? Very good. Point to the 4 pictures. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you tell me what's in this picture here?
What is it?
Okay, how about point to the 4 pictures again?
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Can you point to the cow?
That's it.
Very good.
She knows what it is, but cannot say the word. Recent studies show that the right brain does have some language ability. Both hemispheres can do most things, Zeidel says, but they are genetically programmed to assume different roles early in life. Zeidel's findings raise hopes that those suffering left brain damage may regain meaningful ability to use language by making use of the long-ignored verbal abilities of the right hemisphere.
So it's harder for you to read the words than to hear them.
Right.
Same
Definitely.
Securely locked within the skull, the brain is the most physically inaccessible of all our organs, but it is slowly yielding its secrets to new technology. A computer process developed in Scandinavia allows for the first time graphic depiction of brain activity during behavior in the living cerebral cortex. Shades of red represent increased blood flow, which accompanies specific actions. Here the brain is listening to music. Clenching a fist. Reading silently. Hand movement. Unique views of changing blood flow directly related to behavior. Sleep. Although it takes up 1/3 of our lives, sleep was long the poet's realm, not the scientist's. "O gentle sleep, nature's soft nurse," wrote Shakespeare. No longer is sleep regarded as devoid of mental activity. In infant and adult, during part of every normal night's sleep, the brain is as active as in the waking state. We're most active during REM sleep, the time when we usually dream and our eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids. Thus the name, REM, for rapid eye movements. At a scientific exhibit, the dreaming subject's active brain waves are projected as vertical green laser beams, her eye movements by a dancing blue laser. A night's sleep, speeded up by the camera 120 times. For most healthy people, sleep fits a regular pattern. First, a period of light sleep, followed by deeper sleep, slower brain waves and slower rhythmic breathing. Then at roughly 90-minute intervals, about 4 to 6 times a night, we dream. Our brain waves become more active. Eyes dart around in rapid, jerky movements. Heartbeat and breathing become irregular. Our skeletal muscles become virtually paralyzed, the brain's way of avoiding injury by preventing the body from carrying out the actions of our dreams. Both sexes in REM sleep display genital erection, a phenomenon unrelated to dream content. Here, both sleepers, motionless, are probably dreaming. From the beginnings of civilization to Freudian psychoanalysis, mankind has been tantalized by the content of dreams, which were often seen as mystical or supernatural events, or portents of the future. Today, sleep researchers see dreams as a function of brain physiology, the result of actions by neurons and circuits and chemical messengers. But why we dream remains a mystery. To people like Bill Baird, sleep is an enemy. He suffers from narcolepsy, excessive sleepiness, often accompanied by a sudden loss of muscle tone, similar to the paralysis of REM sleep. Attacks are usually triggered by emotions, Some as seemingly innocuous as the competition of a friendly game or laughing at a joke.
I always beat Bill. He hates it. Look at that. You okay? Yeah, it's okay.
Parker, come here.
That wasn't bad at all. You can feel that one coming. Happens all the time.
When I have an attack, at the start of it, I can feel it. I'm aware that my muscles are beginning to become less solid and less reliable. But after that point, I'm not sure I know what it feels like, because what's happening is I'm collapsing, and I'm concerned about what other people feel or might think of what's happening, and I'm trying to get back up or recover. There's no pain involved, and I know what's going on. It's just that I can't control my muscles, and those are the sensations and things I'm aware of. Yeah, at the present time, there's no known cure, and there's no more adequate treatment than I'm presently taking. So unless something is discovered, this is what I have to look forward to the rest of my life.
So, there we are. Another sleep onset REM period.
A pioneer researcher of sleep and dreams now seeks a cure for narcolepsy.
Then we'll run a multiple sleep latency test through the day. This illness, which we feel afflicts hundreds of thousands of Americans, is not well known at all in the medical community. By and large, every patient goes to an average of at least 5 different doctors complaining of overwhelming sleepiness during the day, losing control of the muscles, becoming paralyzed in response to emotion. There's nothing else that sounds like that. And we're very happy that you volunteered to do this, what we call longitudinal work, because narcoleptic patients have never been evaluated over a long, long period of time by this kind of testing, and this is extremely important information that we'll be gathering. So I'll be seeing. I'm very optimistic that we'll find what causes narcolepsy. The major hope is, of course, the discovery that narcolepsy exists in animals. One can do research in animals, obviously, at a much more penetrating level than one can do in humans. I feel very optimistic that, given the wherewithal to do that, we'll find it in our dogs, and that it will be essentially the same in humans.
All highly inbred, the dogs support the theory that narcolepsy is genetically linked. Just the excitement of being removed from their cages and being offered food in a strange environment is sufficient to bring on the brief paralytic attacks. Discovery of the illness in animals boosted the spirits of human victims, not just because of new hope for a cure, but because it confirmed the physical reality of the ailment. So many narcoleptics had been told it was all in their minds.
Come on, Butch. Butch, get up. Come on, up you go.
The notion that East and West shall never meet is today merely poetic anachronism. Ancient practices and beliefs of the mystic East wield growing influence in the practical scientific West. Several Eastern disciplines tend to intertwine consciousness and body and see meditation as a way of assuring stability and health. Westerners tended to scoff until electrical machines demonstrated that Zen monks and others were indeed capable of altering their brain waves and controlling certain bodily functions in ways most of us had thought were impossible. Now, some in Western medicine are beginning to look seriously at meditation for relief or prevention of various stress-related ailments like ulcers, hypertension, and certain forms of heart trouble. Not until the 1970s was Chinese acupuncture taken seriously by the West. As a treatment for illness, acupuncture has been practiced in China for more than 2,000 years. Since 1958, It has been used experimentally as a replacement for some medical anesthesia in surgery. In a Beijing hospital, surgery for removal of an ovarian tumor employs a local anesthetic and 7 needles inserted in face and forehead to a depth of 1 centimeter. From time to time, the needles will transmit mild electrical stimulation. Surgery begins 20 minutes after the needles are in place. The patient is fully conscious throughout the procedure. She says she feels no pain, although her body is not numb. Highly dramatic when it works, surgical use of acupuncture is in the early stages of experimentation. It can be used with only a small percentage of surgery patients and does not offer complete relief from pain. A report by an American medical group calls it a significant human biological phenomenon of unknown mechanisms. Although some skeptics claim that acupuncture in China is merely a kind of cultural conditioning, a form of self-hypnosis, recent discoveries link acupuncture to the brain's own morphine-like painkillers, the endorphins, and to other neurotransmitters. For 2,000 years, the Chinese have unknowingly made use of brain chemicals that were not even discovered until 1975. Performed by an all-woman team, the operation, filmed by a Japanese television crew, takes an hour and 10 minutes. The pain-killing effect of the acupuncture needles will last for several hours after they are removed. The patient gives every indication of wanting to get off the table and walk away, and she will have less post-operative pain than similar cases using general anesthesia.
Somewhat astounding to realize the scope of our own ignorance in this field. A lot of us think that Chinese medicine and other types of folk medicine are very primitive, but if you look into it, you find that this is not the case at all. In a book called the Nei Ching Su Wen, which is a compilation of writings dated at least 5,000 years ago, the Chinese describe in exquisite detail vaccination against smallpox. They would take the pox off an infected person, grind it up into a powder, and blow it through a tiny tube into the nostrils of anyone who'd come into contact with the patient. Smallpox is virtually unknown in ancient China, and I don't have to tell you what it did to Western civilization. In the same book, they describe circulation of blood in the body thousands of years before Sir William Harvey. The Chinese concept of the human body is very different from the Western medical concept, because in Western medicine, our work is based on anatomy and physiology. The Chinese worship their ancestors, so they weren't permitted to do any gross dissection. What they knew of anatomy and physiology came from extrapolation from animals.
The Chinese believe that the entire body is represented by specific points on the ear, more than 200 in all. Psychologist Bresler finds these points display increased electrical conductivity when there is some injury or illness involving the area of the body to which they correspond. Running an electric probe over the ear, he says, provides an effective technique for diagnosis.
There was a little bit of activity in the mouth area, which can occur from something as simple as biting your tongue, biting your cheek, having a little cavity or something like that.
Yeah, I've got to see the dentist next week for a tooth on the left side.
I don't see any really noticeable musculoskeletal problems or aches or pains or sprains or anything like that. That point right there, is that a little tender? It's still quite a mysterious phenomenon in terms of exactly how it works, but in our own research studies we find about 75 to 80% accuracy we're able to diagnose areas of discomfort in the body simply by examining the electrical activity of the ear. And here's your
shoulder and upper spine. Okay, see now there's an active point. And all that really tells me is, I have it, most people have it. You store a lot of tension in your upper back and in your shoulders. There are really no active points on your left leg, left foot, knee, okay, thigh area. But in your left hand, there are, and your hand is pretty clear. From your wrist, there's a little bit of activity, but of course a lot of activity in the elbow area. So if I'm forced to guess just for the money, okay, it'll have to be on your left hand or arms.
Yeah, it was 30 years ago, and I broke my left wrist when I was like 7 years old.
Your ear doesn't forget.
I think a greater understanding of the ways that the mind influences the body is going to have a revolutionary impact on the way that we practice medicine. That means having an understanding of the mind, the body, the spirit, the emotions, the motivations, an understanding of the whole person. And it's from this point of view that some of the mind-oriented therapies are going to be more and more integrated into our healthcare system, and I think in a very revolutionary and ultimately beneficial way.
What is the message from your team? Right? What is the message?
Some may call it faith healing or mysticism, but clinics like Bresler's offer growing evidence of the mind's ability to relieve chronic pain.
It must be psychosomatic, meaning imaginary. Well, I want to dispel that. We're not talking about it being imaginary. You have real pain. There's no question but that everyone in here has real pain. But what we are saying is it involves all of you. It involves your mind, it involves your body, your spirit. Imagine yourself or some part of yourself where you want healing to occur. Imagine it as well and whole. See yourself just as you want to be. See yourself as well and healed. Use your imagination. This is your opportunity to see yourself just as you want to be. And as you get this picture of yourself as healthy, repeat to yourself every day, in every way, I will feel better and better.
All right, Neil, if you'll put your hand on this cradle now, in a little while, I'm going to drop your hand in the water, and then every 5 seconds, I'll ask you for a report of pain, and you reply with one of those numbers.
Although used in a variety of clinical and experimental situations for more than a century, hypnosis remains a mystery. We know it works, but we do not know how it works. In a demonstration by Dr. Ernest Hilgard of Stanford University, a subject's arm is placed in circulating ice water just above the freezing point.
Report?
12.
Report?
13.
It's pretty cold, isn't it?
Yeah. A little while for it to recover here. Blood back in there.
Yeah, just exercise a little bit, that's it. How did it really feel?
Well, at first, it grabbed me. It was like a shock. And then it just continued, like someone was pounding needles into me continuously all the way up. And about 10, I really wanted to take my hand out. I was in pain.
Yes. All right. Just close your eyes now and relax. And you'll gradually drift into hypnosis as I count 1. Drifting. What we're looking at now is a normal hypnosis procedure, except that Neil is experienced, and in fact he could hypnotize himself. The most prominent feature about the person who can become hypnotized is that they can become immersed in fantasy and imagination, so that in some sense hypnosis is kind of believed in imagination. 9 and 10. That's fine. I want this arm to become completely numb. As I stroke it, it will become completely numb, so that a little later you'll feel no pain at all. Is it numb now? Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to report on the same scale you did before. If you feel no pain, you'll say 0. If you should happen to feel a little pain, you can begin to count. But I think you'll feel no pain at all in that arm. Report? 0. Report? 0.
Pain relief by hypnosis does not seem to involve an increase of the brain's natural pain-killing endorphins. The actual mechanism remains unknown.
Report.
0.
Report.
0.
Report.
0.
Okay, that's fine. I've lifted your hand out of the water now, and I'm going to dry it, as we did before. Now I'm going to have you come out of hypnosis. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Wide awake. Okay, how was it?
Fine with me. I really didn't feel anything.
You could have kept it in longer?
As long as you wanted.
I'm about to help you to become as attentive and alert as you can. That will help you gradually to enter a state of alert hypnosis. It feels good to notice the tenseness in your muscles as you hold the handlebars, and to sense the strength in your legs as you pedal. Your body will feel vibrant and ready for action and attention as you continue to listen to my words. Just listen and become more wide awake, more aware, more alert. Whatever you feel is happening, just let it happen.
Hypnosis is usually associated with a sleep-like state. Indeed, the very word comes from hypnos, the Greek god of sleep. But hypnosis is also possible during an active, alert state. After a few minutes, the subject is completely hypnotized and responds readily to the experimenter suggestions as he hands her an ordinary ballpoint pen.
Here is a heating element that is quite cool. Will you just take hold of this, please? No, it's not quite cool. All right, now I've turned on the current. It's going to warm up very gradually. I want you to decide when you first detect warmth. As soon as you decide it feels warm, just tell me. All right, it is on. It's already warm. Well, that's fine. Now I'm going to let the element get really hot, too hot for anyone to hold. But only hold to it as long as it doesn't bother you, and then let it go. Don't let it hurt you by getting too hot. It's getting pretty hot now. When it gets... That's all right. That was pretty hot. I don't blame you for dropping it. It's away now, and your hand is quite normal. Feels just as it did before I gave you the heating element. Your hand's all right, isn't it? You didn't let it get burned. Well, that's fine. All right. There'll be no after effects.
Hilgard sees a relationship between alert hypnosis and the state athletes call second wind.
When an athlete, like a distance runner, has second wind, he commonly doesn't feel his legs at all. They just seem to be somebody else's legs running. This is very much like the hypnotic experience on the bicycle. There are people who expect this to happen. If they expect it to happen at that point, that's similar to self-hypnosis. There is no physiology of second wind. It's apparently a subjective thing, but some of the really most successful runners say they cultivate this. When they feel they're just so exhausted, they keep right on going, and presently they get into some kind of state where they no longer feel exhausted, and they keep right on running, and that's their second wind.
Some of the most dramatic demonstrations of mind controlling body come from India, where for centuries yogis and others have performed feats that Westerners simply refuse to believe. That is, until modern technology was brought in. For example, a yogi can be buried alive, locked in an airtight box. Upon entry, his vital functions and brain waves on a polygraph are active. The yogi will remain in the box for hours and survive without ill effects long after the oxygen supply normally would have been exhausted. How does he do it? By placing himself in a meditative state that lowers his heart rate, respiration, blood pressure, temperature, and other functions of the autonomic nervous system. Functions that until recently, Western medicine thought could not be consciously controlled.
Vijay, how do you feel?
I think like...
You feel very well?
Yes, yes.
September 12th, 1971. I was traveling in a van westward, and it overturned on the highway. In the accident, my neck was broken. I went to Goldwater Hospital and was there for almost 6 years.
Totally paralyzed from the neck down, 29-year-old Sue Strong lived for years in a horizontal position. If she were placed upright, blood would rush to her feet and she would faint. While still hospitalized, she entered a biofeedback program, hoping to learn voluntary control over her blood pressure.
The average person is not aware of whether his blood pressure is increasing or decreasing. We wire the subject up in such a way that when his blood pressure goes up, it causes a tone to sound. And when the blood pressure falls, the tones stop. You can't tell the person exactly what to do. You can give him some hints, but essentially he has to practice, succeed, and fail, and finally he develops a skill.
Okay, Sue, just keep maintaining your pressure. Even though your legs are down, so far you're doing very well. Good, good.
How she raises her blood pressure is not known. But with paralysis ruling out muscular action, it must somehow come from the brain.
See if you can bring it up just a little more than that. Good, good, 86. Very nice, very nice.
If one could imagine one's brain as being a sponge and then having it squeezed and feeling the feeling of that squeezing. That's the sensation that I go for when I try to raise my pressure. And as it turns out, when I aim for that feeling, my pressure does go up.
Good, good, very nice. Okay, rest, 110. Well done. Now rest, let your blood pressure do its own thing.
When you've been in a hospital for 6, 7 years, and suddenly to find yourself outside of a hospital, living in an apartment, going to the supermarket, it doesn't sound particularly thrilling to someone that does it every day. And it's not always all that thrilling to me either. But I could never have done any of that before. When I first got enough courage and self-confidence to apply the things I had learned in the biofeedback experiments, I celebrated by going to a rock concert. And it was such a thrill to be out in the world in a crowd of people and out of a hospital. And I'm not sure that I could say anything more than it was so euphoric. Perhaps like being drunk, though I've never been drunk in my life.